Hello, everybody. You might have noticed we took this past month off to give some space to voices that needed to be heard and to support and grieve with the Minneapolis community. A lot of important things have been coming to light recently since George Floyd's murder, from the irrelevancy of the police department, also the misogyny of the local music scene. Well, this is nothing new, and in fact, people of color have been trying to share the importance of these issues for years. For some reason, it seems like little by little these things are finally being heard. I'm not sure what the right words are to express the grief and anger that's rightfully taken place in our city over the past month to people who haven't experienced it themselves, or the hope, education, and organization that's followed. I'm inspired by my community more than ever to move forward with the dismantling of systemic oppression and the revitalization of our community through new leadership and restorative and transformative justice. What is self-care to you? What are your boundaries? When is it time to try and push past those boundaries? Do you truly believe that fighting for others' rights means also fighting for your own? Today we're talking to someone who demonstrates commitment to what I like to refer to as the work fiercely. We're talking to my dear friend and ally, Alyssa Pariah. This was my first online interview. It didn't go quite the way I planned, so the quality isn't what I wanted, but I promise it'll be better next time. Alyssa is one of the strongest people I know, and that is absolutely no exaggeration. Through my time knowing her, I have drawn so much inspiration to come to know and to love myself more deeply in an effort to fight for others just as fiercely. She is someone who undoubtedly believes that working across difference is the clearest path towards progress. I'll be posting a link to a talk that Alyssa delivered at the U of M a few years ago across the Listen to Girls social media that is well worth checking out. It's a speech about Audre Lorde and her views on working across difference. I will also be posting Alyssa's Venmo link. Show her some love. She deserves the support. Lastly, before getting into today's episode, I want to read a poem by Assata Shakur, in case you're looking for some fuel. I remember being shook and inspired the first time I read it, and I think now more than ever, we need to take care of each other and fight for the future that we want together. It might not feel like we have the energy to take care of ourselves and each other to make progress. We are tired, but that doesn't mean we still can't steer the ship into port. I believe in living. I believe in the spectrum of beta days and gamma people. I believe in sunshine, in windmills and waterfalls, tricycles and rocking chairs. And I believe that seeds grow into sprouts, and sprouts grow into trees. I believe in magic of the hands and in the wisdom of the eyes. I believe in rain and tears and in the blood of infinity. I believe in life. And I have seen the death parade march through the torso of the earth, sculpting mud bodies in its path. I have seen the destruction of the daylight and seen bloodthirsty maggots prayed to and saluted. I have seen the kind become the blind and the blind become the bind in one easy lesson. I have walked on cut glass. I have eaten crow and blunder bread and breathed in the stench of indifference. I have been locked by the lawless, handcuffed by the haters, gagged by the greedy. And if I know anything at all, it's that a wall is just a wall and nothing more at all. It can be broken down. I believe in the living. I believe in birth. I believe in the sweat of love and in the fire of truth. And I believe that a lost ship steered by tired, seasick sailors can still be guided home to port. Let's go. Well, hi, Alyssa.
Hello, Vicky. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. Long time coming. I'm
Yes,
stoked.
I do. Your listeners know about our relationship to any degree?
They're about to find out.
Can I give my version of the story and you can fill in any gaps?
Oh my God, yes. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick and just like if you want to share your pronouns or anything?
Yes, my name is Alyssa Pariah. My pronouns are she, her, hers. It is June 29th, 2020, my half birthday. I am 33 and a half years old. Thank you very much. And I am in Portland, Oregon as we record and missing you very much in Minneapolis. Thank you for all you do.
Oh, baby. All right, let's go. What do you got?
All right.
How do we meet?
So, back in 2017,
Wow.
yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Hi,
I
3 years.
flies.
Hello.
Damn.
I got hired with the Ginger Jensen for City Council campaign in Minneapolis. And I was very excited to campaign for a real fighter for the working class. She was an open socialist who helped to lead the successful Fight for 15 in Minneapolis as the director of the 15 Now campaign years before she ran for city council and was representing a truly democratic organization that helped to, I think, transform the state of politics in that city from what I could observe as an outsider. But I was knocking on doors every day and listening to people talk about their political and economic situations and how the Fight for 15 and Ginger Jensen's leadership, the Socialist Alternative Organization, helped to make people think more highly of what they could expect from their own city. So I was very happy to be a part of that campaign. And while I was on it, I met Vicky. So one of the people who worked in the campaign is a longtime friend and of yours and a short-term friend of mine. And I was very happy to meet you. And we had a lovely dinner at what is the name of the Japanese restaurant? Here's one of the gaps. What is it called?
Masu.
Thank you, Masu.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And had very frank conversation that allowed me to feel vulnerable and seen and appreciated. So I never let you go.
Same back at you. I would say the same.
So I even ended up staying in your house on
Mm-hmm.
a blow-up mattress on your living room floor and ate a lot of your food. Sorry about that.
You made a lot of delicious food too.
Do you remember that?
I do. You introduced
Yeah.
me to some great people.
Mm.
So yeah, being able to yeah, share meals with your community, even go on trips with your community. I got to see the Louvre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Duluth.
I got to go up there in winter and feel how beautiful cold can actually be if you
Mm-hmm.
know it's coming and you have the scenery to match.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
I'm
the
Puerto Rican.
layers.
I like it around 90. That's my ideal temperature. But going up there was lovely, and I would like to go back. I
Mm-hmm.
really want to go back to Minneapolis, as some people around the country are organizing caravans from their city where Black Lives Matter organizers and activists are going there to sort of meet together and think together. And
Wow.
I'm hoping that I get invited to one.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. And then I'll be able to see you again. Hello.
Please.
I can't wait. Oh man. Yeah, every time it's almost been like I've been able to come visit or something, just shit happens and I can't do it. But I'm really excited, yeah, that we're finally talking via the internet. And it's funny how it took like a pandemic for me to be like, fuck it, online interview that truly exists. Like, why did it? Yeah, I don't know.
I want to say congratulations to everyone who is making up for lost time with
Mm-hmm.
friendships that should have been tended to all along.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
we dropped the ball, and
Mm-hmm.
here we are trying to make up for lost time. So
Hell yeah.
let's go.
Awesome. Well, if we could backtrack a little bit, I want to get into just a little bit more about introing you as an individual. Um, so you are quite possibly a self-proclaimed friendly neighborhood agitator.
Friendly
I
neighborhood
think that's it.
agitator.
Fantastic description for you. I also have does not need a megaphone. You are a member of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Mm-hmm.
You organize with Don't Shoot Portland.
Yeah.
And you're still hosting the struggle, correct?
Yes. We
Awesome.
will get back in the station as soon as it's safe.
Totally.
Hmm.
Is that usually on Sundays or is
No,
that
Friday nights at 7
okay?
in
Okay.
Portland, and all of the episodes are archived on
Awesome.
kboo.fm. So if you just miss my voice and time doesn't matter, you can go listen to me rant.
And you have a lot of great guests on there, so highly suggest.
The best activists in the city come to the studio and talk with me.
Toot toot. Great. So we're gonna take it even further back. Where'd you grow up, Miss Alyssa?
I grew up in New Jersey. It's a very sordid story. I'm not trying to make anybody cry, but I have to tell my truth
Please
because
do.
that it makes me me. My parents were dealing with problems with drugs and poverty and racism, and were not able to take care of me like they should have. And my dad was physically abusive, and my mom and I had to run away from him when I was very young.
Mm.
And my mom did her best, and I appreciate all of her efforts. She taught me a lot, even when she wasn't able to render care like I needed. But I survived, so how wonderful. And I'm proud to say that not only is my mom not using, she's helping other people not use. And she works in Florida as a drug and alcohol counselor at a rehab and
Wow.
changes lives on a regular basis. My dad, I don't know. Good luck to you. See you at your funeral. So that was home life. School life was horrendous, as it is for, I would venture to say, most trans women when they are children. We are a very sensitive bunch, very, very dramatic, and not suited for the rigid structures of public schooling in the United States of America. I dare to say. So I bristled up against a lot of boys and men who are my classmates, teachers, administration, who were pretty horrified and disgusted with my very feminine behavior in this, little brown body. That everyone told me that I was supposed to, be a boy to learn how to be a man. And I was just horrified by that fact and never accepted that expectation. So I rejected my father and emulated my mother. So here I am. I survived that too. And now I can tell the story without shedding a tear. This might be one of the first times I've told that story without crying. Thank you, Vicky. And thank you to my therapist.
Yeah. let's thank the therapist for a second.
Uh-huh. If you don't heal your trauma, kids, you're not gonna go as far as you think. Just
Absolutely.
yeah, bite the bullet. Dare to act from your heart and not your pain.
I feel like we've had a few really good conversations around trauma and healing and, putting in the work. I definitely have been someone that had just started therapy within the past year, and I don't understand how I've been walking through life without it, honestly. Not to take power away from myself, but just like, I guess I just don't know why I haven't taken advantage of that resource for so long when I, now know the effects of that. I have a couple more questions related to that, but first I want to keep bringing us forward with, so you grew up in New Jersey, you left with your ma. What about the in between? What was in between you getting from New Jersey to Portland? How did you get into politics?
Ooh, great. So, like so many Black and brown trans women from poverty, I was channeled into sex work to pay for my transition and my life. And I heard that Portland was a place where you could get a lot of money for not a lot of work, which was and continues to be one of my main goals in life. So, I wanted to just try out the West Coast after feeling like I had seen enough of the East Coast cities and their sort of, she-male Craigslist scene, and decided to just give it a shot after Hurricane Sandy, 2012, 8 years, whoa.
Wow.
Hit the Jersey Shore really, really bad. And that's where I was at the time. So the apartment complex that I was in was just destroyed. And I was stuck in a converted Holiday Inn in Tom's River with my mother
Holy shit.
that FEMA was paying for. And I realized I needed to book it as soon as the airlines opened because my mother's horrendous boyfriend, all of her boyfriends have been horrendous. She knows that. I've never liked them. They've never liked me. This was just one of the latest. No shade. I love my mother. When I tell these stories about my mother, sometimes I worry that people are like, oh, she has a lot of resentment. No, I have zero resentment. I just...
You have the truth, and
yeah.
you have... Yeah.
I have to say it because I didn't say it for so long, and now my mother and I are at a place in her life and mine, my transition, her recovery, like, we have to tell the truth about what we came through in order to, like, forge a healthy path forward. So, when he came to the FEMA hotel that we were in, I was like, okay, gotta go. Can't be in the same room as you. Don't want to be in the same hotel, city, anything. I gotta go. So I got on one of the first flights out of JFK, and I knew that something in the stars was twinkling extra bright in this moment, that I saw the price for a one-way ticket from JFK to PDX. It was $165, and that is exactly how much I had in my JetBlue account from, late flights in the past. And I just applied my credit, and that was that. So I just felt a little extra good about this trip in particular, and the idea of providence and peace and rest. So I booked it, and it turned out to be kind of right. Not that I expected anything to be perfect, but relatively to what I had previously been going through, it was pretty smooth sailing. And something about that West Coast chill vibe was able to give me the rest that I needed. And not long after that, I met this guy, this old white guy, retired letter carrier, unionist militant, named Jamie Partridge.
Jamie.
And he was selling the Socialist Worker newspaper on the campus of Portland State University. And he was the first person who I met on the campus on my first day of school. And I got the paper, and I got a dozen flyers that he gave me about events that were coming up and reading groups and meetings and all of this. So I met him before I met any of my classmates or professors, and went to the socialist reading group and took it all in, and felt like it could be a place where I could build community where I didn't have any before, because it was more than a year between moving to Portland to make money for my transition and deciding that I was ready to move on to something else, in this case, education. And I was intentional about forging new bonds, and I felt like this was a good way to do it, even though, whatever, Marxist reading groups are a little boring. But after all of the stress that I have been enduring for so long, a boring Marxist reading group felt like a vacation.
Absolutely.
So I delved into that, learned a lot, and not long after that is when I got involved with Don't Shoot Portland, because this was back in 2014 when the Black Lives Matter movement began to rise up after Darren Wilson killed Mike Brown in the street in front of everybody and laid his body cooking on the pavement for 4.5 hours with his mother looking on, screaming in horror. And everybody saw it. And it was a turning point for people who had not previously gotten politically engaged and protesting and militant protesting became the clear path forward for black people all over the country. And I was very happy to engage and learn and then lead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's through the leadership of Teresa Rayford, who is maybe going to be the mayor of Portland if her write-in
Very
campaign is successful. She'll be the first black mayor in Portland, and certainly the first mayor that cares seriously about black liberation and economic justice, anti-capitalism, and feminism. Like she's a true believer and a real fighter, and I believe in her, and I don't believe in just anybody. Because I can see through a lot of bullshit. I was raised with crackheads and junkies. I know when you're lying. So she's the real deal, and I'm very happy to support her campaign. And in this political moment where I'm out protesting more days than not, I'm very happy that I was able to go through that experience of learning about capitalism and white supremacy and patriarchy in a simultaneous sort of academic setting, but also a very ferocious setting in the street. Like reading about it and then experiencing the counter-revolutionary forces beating us back while we're trying to struggle against it. So that is just something that's so crystallized in my mind that I'm like, you know what? You fucked around. You turned me from being like confused and sad to now being committed and dangerous and sharp. I mean, put me on a bullhorn or whatever, like, and ask me how I feel about oppression, and you're gonna get it. So yeah, here we go.
Definitely. Did you feel like when you started attending like specifically the reading meetings and stuff and everything, was that kind of one of those experiences where obviously you've had experiences in your life, you in one way or another had absorbed the fuckery, you saw what was going on, and then when you join these groups, specifically academia or specifically out in the streets, finding like minded people, all of a sudden it was like, okay, now I have words for this, or okay, like there's work that's dedicated to this. Like, I think it's interesting, when some people tout either like kind of one way or the other, or like you have to be academic about it, or you have to, whatever. And it's like, no, like there are people that don't and may not ever get these academic experiences that can describe exactly what you're saying in their own poetry because they've had these experiences, and like they don't, like that's great, and that brings it together, and that brings a lot of people on the same page, especially people that haven't personally had these experiences yet, but
We call that the pedagogy of the oppressed.
boom.
Uh, Not everyone who goes through the shit that I went through and worse can put it in words and fight against it because they're too exhausted. Exhaustion is like, it's something that we can't even begin, I think, collectively, like in terms of like this movement that is making us rethink the logic of the United States of America itself, right? Like, we're coming up on July 4th, Independence Day, and I think that for maybe the first time, maybe millions of people in this country are having to take a good look at, like, what is it exactly that we're celebrating here? Like, this myth about independence, freedom, and justice for all hundreds of years ago. Fast forward, this is what we get.
Right.
This doesn't seem worthwhile. And I'm looking back like, yes, that's right. Keep going. Keep going.
Keep going.
But anyway, so people who have been suffering under it can really just be too exhausted to put it in words or engage in action or advocacy. And we have all of this untapped brilliance that, if given the opportunity, would absolutely be leading us to victory. But the tool that sort of kept me from moving for as long as it did just sort of lost its efficacy, and now I'm just like this wild beast screaming all the time. But it's because I was able to, sorry to use the trite term, but, find my voice. But there is something there about voice that I have to honor and come back to, which is like, yeah, I'm a trans woman, and I know that I don't sound like a cis woman. That's okay. And it took me a long time to accept that that is okay. What is important is what I'm saying, not the quality or the femininity of my voice. And it was because of the pressure that I experienced from Teresa, in large part, to quickly and urgently get over my aversion to speaking up because of my then embarrassment of the depth and raspiness of my voice. So my admitting to her that I was insecure and I thought that it would probably be better for someone else to speak, someone who wouldn't make people laugh at them or be disgusted or put off by them, would be a better choice. And like, she was just blown away by that. She I could see that she was like dealing with this like painful calculation in her brain when I was telling her this, because she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Oh my God.
And she told me,
you're making me cry.
She's the real deal. I'm telling you, like, Teresa Rayford, like, this is a woman who's gonna like get bared out by history as being an unsung hero. Back when it wasn't so popular to be saying Black Lives Matter, because she's been continuing the work, and I think she deserves more accolades. But she simply told me that anyone who said anything sideways to me would just simply be kicked out, wouldn't be welcome at our protests, wouldn't be able to come to our meetings, and she would see to it herself. And I believed her, and I started to talk on megaphones and share my thoughts and my analysis that I was, again, simultaneously getting from reading Marx and Lenin, Trotsky, Luxembourg, like all of these people who have been thinking about this for a long time, and gave me a worldview that I was able to apply to my situation decades later or centuries later, and it is able to flow freely. I don't write any of my speeches. I barely prepare for interviews, but I say what I mean, and I work on being coherent and compelling and concise. Sometimes it works better than others, but I'm working on it. I want to be a friendly neighborhood agitator. I want to be able to speak to anyone and hear what they're going through, what their opinions on things are, find out where I can enter and offer my analysis and be willing to process with people who are considering the ideas and maybe bring them into the streets or into the organization or what have you.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I cherish most about you is that you truly, just like you said, are willing to talk to anyone and you're willing to meet anyone where they're at. And there's not 1 ounce of, performativeness in that. You truly are here for the work and you're here for the betterment of everyone. And I definitely would like to mirror, Teresa's sentiments that your voice and who you are as a woman is who I aspire to be as a woman and how I show up in the world. So,
Thank you, Vicky.
absolutely. Absolutely. You're an inspiration to me constantly, You're on my mental shelf of who I pray to, if I need help and if I need, more energy or guidance. So, appreciate you. A little bit of full circle now because I feel like before when we were getting to know you a little bit more, just the idea of working through one's trauma and how important that is to be able to get back to the work. And also, I guess, kind of that ties in with what you were just talking about being able to speak to anyone and reach out to anyone, no matter where they're at. As far as trauma goes, like I obviously, again, we've talked about this previously, and I just relate to you so much and your point of view on it. But can we dive into that a little bit more? Like, when was there a certain point that you realized your trauma was holding up gates for you, or you really needed to, take the boundaries or the limits that you had found for yourself and push them back?
Yeah. It was recent, sadly.
Yep.
I regret to tell you that it was recent. It should have been a long time ago. But I had bad experiences with state mandated counselors and therapists in school who knew that, my mom was on dope, my dad was on crack, and we were in a bad situation, like DIFUS, like the Department of Youth and Family Services, or like Child Protective Services, was involved. We lived in Section 8 housing, and like all of the things that make youth at risk. With justice involved parents. Like these terms that are used by some well-meaning people make me cringe, and I still have an aversion to like neoliberal social justice jargon. It's one of the things that I grind against, but I'm ready to patiently explain, like Lenin said, to people who really do want to take part in advocating for a better world, but don't even realize that like their language is, like, in my opinion, pretty antithetical to the kind of project for liberation that we need and deserve. But whatever, I will measure my level of visceral reaction based on my interpretation of their sincerity for the work. Anyway, because I had these terrible experiences where the things that I was admitting to these therapists and social workers and counselors were being used against my mother. And I understand that, like, years later that of course they weren't plotting to destroy my trust. Like, they weren't They weren't trying to do harm. They were just trying to do their jobs. And maybe they sincerely believe that I shouldn't have been in my mother's custody. However, what I knew was that I watched and heard the horrific stories of physical, sexual, emotional abuse that my mother's drug friends' children, who were my friends, were telling me about their foster homes or their group homes. And I committed myself to not doing anything that would put me in that situation because in my little, baby trans mind, it was better for me to learn how to clean the house, cook my food, get home, take care of my sister, do my homework, and try to do my part to make sure that people at school didn't know what was going on at home. So it was just better for me to have that living situation than to be getting raped by some preacher at a church who has 10 kids in foster care, and that doesn't ring any alarms in anybody's head. Like, whoa, he's an upstanding member of the community, but like, all right, is anybody looking into this? And the answer is no. Like,
Right.
then and now, black and brown poor kids can and are trafficked into sexual abusive situations, physical, psychological abusive situations at the hands of people who are entrusted by the state to take care of them. It's an epidemic, in my opinion, and we can't even begin to address it because, like the prison industrial complex, the school to prison pipeline, sexual abuse of even adult women, the crisis at the border, climate change. I mean, you name it, right? If you really engage with any of these issues that we're facing in the country, police brutality. Oh my God, how could I forget that? We're like in this moment. Like, if you scratch the surface of any of those, you will find that the best way forward is to abolish capitalism.
Yay.
That is what is needed for all of these problems because they're just so expensive that if you wanted to do something about them, it would really begin to cut in to the profits of the elite who pay off our politicians who are exacerbating all of these issues. And this is why you have uprisings, because it's like it's a contradiction of values and practices that just continue to create friction. And then you have a crisis moment, and it's like Minneapolis. Hello, like you're the example that you've got like open Nazis patrolling streets because the police have lost all credibility, even among hapless white middle class liberals in nice neighborhoods. So that's a crisis situation, and this is what you get when you don't address all of these things, including how poor black and brown kids are treated when they get taken away from their parents who are in bad situations. So this is what you get. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, all of these things are sprouted up from, the roots of capitalism and the whole idea of needing to dismantle that in order to dismantle all of these, side effects of capitalism. We need to work past our trauma that's created by capitalism. And, so it's like, how Okay, so I'll use myself as an example. I think that I also don't like to admit how recent it was that I realized I needed to start pushing past the plateau that I made for myself of like resolve and again working through all of my issues. And it was like, I realized that, drawing hard boundaries was obviously important and necessary. And the the act of working through my own issues, working through my own traumas, setting boundaries, saying, no, I'm using my energy for me. No, I'm not, doing all of that. And that I think, even though for a while I think it created this imaginary line where I thought I could just live in that. I thought I could just live on that plateau and that I deserved to, again, with the traumas that I experienced with whatever, that I deserved to just stay there and my boundaries were hard and, other people could do the work. And, I had these things that I had to deal with and all of that. And, now I've realized that we need every single ounce of energy from anyone that has the capacity to do that. Obviously, a lot of people that hold these traumas are also the people that hold the deepest amount of knowledge, the deepest amount of empathy or caring or actual desire for, equity and all of that. So just realizing how important it was for these people that while they have every right to hold on to their energy and hold on to these boundaries, they're needed. I'm needed. You're needed. And yeah, so it was an interesting thing of like, I realized that I did need to go through that period of, again, practicing setting boundaries, acknowledging to myself that the experiences that I had warranted me, hibernating, warranted me acknowledging when I didn't have a well to draw from. But ultimately, I don't think I would have been able to build a infrastructure within myself to push past those if I didn't allow myself to have kind of that second tier of experience of acknowledgement and of resting and of all this stuff, And in that case, the sense that I can go back to that when I truly need to, but it's enabled me to be really radically honest with myself and find the areas that I can push past. And yeah, I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that a little bit more, or if you have any.
Well, congratulations. I was hearing echoes of Audre Lorde that you must have been reading when you came to these conclusions. Because to take care of yourself, and self-care has been so hijacked. Oh my goodness. I mean, that self-care is something to be marketed now, is one of the sharpest points of agitation against the market itself, that you can sell something to someone else in order for them to take care of themselves, is like a, I don't know, it's malignant. It's a horrendous misappropriation of what Audre Lorde meant when she said that taking care of myself is not an act of self-indulgence. It is preservation, and that is a revolutionary act. And my interpretation of that is that it's not that anyone who takes a lovely bath with a cup of tea is a revolutionary. That's a reduction that I think cheap Marxists use, and if I say that and you feel a little wounded by that, maybe I'm talking about you. But she's not. That's not the assertion. It's not like you're Huey P. Newton if you like are sleeping an extra hour. Like that. It's you are pushing back against capitalist logic that will dictate for you based on your wage or salary or packaged benefits. That is your measure, your official measure under capitalism of your hard work and how much rest you deserve. Like that's the correlation that we all sort of are interpreting before we even have a conception of what's happening to us. It's capitalist logic, the wage system itself, that before you have an understanding of your own work that needs to be done internally, you do understand that you must go to work to earn a wage in order to pay for your basic needs to survive. Like, we all know that. But if you decide that you are going to prioritize taking care of yourself, perhaps even at the cost of pursuing higher wages or success in business or what have you, then that is what is like pushing against capitalist logic. That's why it's revolutionary. In my opinion, that's my reading of Audre Lorde, and that's what I'm getting echoes of when you were talking about your experience here. And even though my understanding of that was pretty clear before I started doing therapy, I wasn't able to really start practicing what I knew until I had like kind of a crisis situation about a year ago, a little over a year ago. I'm going to take people down memory lane again. Go with me, please. About a year ago, it was June 9th, if I'm not mistaken. Here we go. Leilene Polanco extravaganza was found dead in her cell in Rikers Island jail in New York City. And she's a Black Dominican trans woman who was raised in poverty in the Bronx and was also channeled into sex work. And she was my friend. And when I heard about her death, I was in New Orleans. And I knew something weird was going to happen in New Orleans. I run from the spirits all the time. I'm really scared. I'm not ready. But something about, I was like, oh, when I go to New Orleans, they're gonna come for me. Like, I was excited to go, but like I had some trepidation around that. But I went for the Afro-Socialist convening of the Democratic Socialists of America. And we were in a session about abolishing the prison industrial complex and how our organization might contribute to the movement to do that. And I should not have been scrolling on my phone, but I was. So, oh shit. I can't believe this. So I just I just left my body for a little while. And when the session was over, I asked everybody if they would be willing to just take a minute to send a picture and solidarity, sort of as our group, to the family, and told a little bit of history so that people could understand, in a context of sort of like what's happening right now. And I'm like, this just happened this morning. They just found her body. She had a seizure and died in her cell, and it was a solitary confinement cell. So that means that, and this is my hot take, everybody. If you disagree, that's fine. But I believe that if you die in solitary confinement, the jail killed you. They got one job. And not only did they not try to keep her alive, they were making jokes and laughing about her dead body. So that also happened to be when Pride was happening at or in New Orleans. So we went to Pride, and sidebar, I flashed Big Frida my titties on her float.
Yes.
She saw me and gagged. And it was just a lovely moment. I got a lot of beads thrown at me. When I went back home, oh my goodness, it was like a reprioritizing in the highest order when I got back home. And the stuff that I was dealing with at the time back home in Portland, I just decided that my final decision on all of this stuff was stop. Stop all of this. No, I can't come and be on your panel. No, I'm not going to be at the steering committee meeting. No, I'm not going to, just no, not available, not available, not available. Where I'm going to be home drinking tea in my bath. That's what I'm going to be doing. And that's my official word. And something about deciding to really be in my body and not be flying from one left event to another. I've already proven that I'm a very serious leftist. I have nothing to prove. It's just that, people want what I have, and I give it freely. And right now, I don't have it to give. I'm giving it to myself.
Yes.
That's Audre Lorde.
Yes.
So, I'm not different from Laylene. Even now, I'm not different from Laylene. Whatever. I have a Marxist education, and I engage in protest. That's a small change in my life in the big scheme of things. I haven't escaped the thing that killed Laylene. She was poverty stricken and out of options. I'm still there, and so are billions of people on the planet. And if you can't see yourself in Laylene like I do, take a closer look. Because you're more like her than you think. If the state decided to begin targeting your group, you might be dead in a solitary confinement cell next year. So you might want to fight for people like Laylene now when you have the chance, in my opinion. So that trajectory about a year ago took me to deciding that my aversion to therapists was not serving me. And nobody can report to DIFUS on my mother anymore. So why the fear? And started talking to a therapist who is so good. She is an indigenous woman who takes anti-colonialism very seriously and understands generational trauma and is not afraid of the ugliest parts of my stories and helps me to rethink my trauma responses and
Yes.
helps me to pay attention to my body itself. So why am I leaning this way? You know, why I'm closing in literally when I'm talking about the stuff that hurts me. And what about if I sat up and felt both sides of my body at the same time and decided to stay exactly where I am and think about the thing that's coming in and not feel the fear response that I'm used to. I can try something else and I'm doing it. And so are you, it sounds like. So
That's
congratulations
beautiful.
again.
Thank you, babe. Yeah, it's interesting learning about, again, yeah, trauma responses, trying something else, and kind of, yeah, taking account of, again, probably trauma responses that probably served you at some point. They probably kept you safe at some point. They probably kept you alive at some point. But to have the power and have the support to be able to explore those things is next level for sure. Yeah. One more thing. We have about probably like 10 minutes left before we're at an hour. But I wanted to speak on a little bit the Audre Lorde short film that we made about your speech, working across difference. I'm definitely going to link that when I put this up again so people can take a look if they want. But yeah, that was just another beautiful example of, I know you speak on self-care in there, and then you also speak on just the idea that escapes people so often somehow about, you know, fighting for the things that you need. Often you're fighting for the things that other people need. Or, you know, what you just had said about your friend, that if you don't see yourself in them, look closer. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more on just the idea of working across difference, if you have anything you'd like to add.
Great. Yeah, it's just a little notion called solidarity. So Audre Lorde, again, come with me here. I'm going to give it to you. Audre Lorde is a black, lesbian, socialist, feminist, activist, author, poet, warrior, mother. I think those are all of the words that she uses to describe herself in her her biomythography, which is not her autobiography. It's something else. She's very poetic.
It's what helped me realize I was queer, by the way.
Ooh, Zami. Ooh, okay.
Literally,
Well,
yeah.
happy Pride, everybody. So she is living and writing in New York City in the 60s, back when the City College is free. So, you know, people who are fighting for that now, like, it's not a utopian dream. Literally, it was in place a few decades ago before the market decided, no, let's charge people for this and give our friends some more billions of dollars. Ooh, they're so evil. So Audrey was able to pursue education freely, and did, and thrived, and learned and taught more than most people ever on the planet, maybe. So she's speaking to people in the Black Power movement who are giving their energy to a nationalist, patriarchal project in some cases where, oh, the residue is still with us with, like, the phenomenon of the Hotep. The idea that, like, the strong black man should be at the head of the family, should be a provider and a businessman and a fighter and a protector. And that's fine. I mean, if you are a beautiful young cisgender heterosexual black woman and that's what you want in a man, do it. That, like, go after that man. There's nothing wrong with him for you. However, if you, Vicky, me, Alyssa, you, Audre Lorde, you, Laylene, you, Teresa, like, if we're not that, what's our place? Right? Like, we're not that we're not the object of the affection of these men who are leading the Black Power movement or significant elements of it when Audre Lorde is writing and thinking and acting. However, at the same time, she's talking to scholars in feminism who are in the lead up to what we would now call executive feminism or breaking the glass ceiling or girl boss or whatever you want. That these are their sort of political mothers who are putting forward ideas that are also rooted in a capitalist notion of freedom and also a racist and homophobic notion of freedom in that they are asking black women to pipe down. Shocking. Well, never heard of that before. Okay. Asking black women to lower their voices, their collective voice that is offering to the feminist movement the need for a more serious understanding and commitment to fight against white supremacy. And Audre Lorde says that the women in the movement are afraid that their sons will one day turn against them and join the patriarchy. That's their fear. Her fear is that her son is going to be, here we are, 2020, gunned down by the police. That's her main fear as a feminist. And why is that not on the political agenda? And why is it that when we're asking for, or she and her comrades and women like her are asking for it, that it's not taken up seriously, but actually treated with suspicion and rejected? That's a big problem. That, like, that's a heavy burden on anyone's shoulders, but especially someone who has a political understanding, a clear and true and correct political understanding of the world that they're living in. So it's very maddening to give yourself and your energy to movements and organizations that plainly do not value your point of view and your contributions, and it shows in their actions. And I can tell you firsthand, as my head is getting light here, I can tell you firsthand that is a residue that we are still dealing with today. So I have to continue to thank and spread the good word of Audre Lorde, so that people who find themselves in a similar bind can have a sort of roadmap on how to, like, traverse this very bumpy terrain that we're on in order to, like, get to freedom, because the path is not clear and we need help. So Audre Lorde continues to help us, and that's why I was at University of Minnesota in 2017. Thank you to the students in the Students for Justice in Palestine for helping to make that happen. They are fantastic. I'm still in the fight for free Palestine, for the end of the occupation and the apartheid. As we're filming this right now, Israel is gearing up to do a new round of illegal annexation of Palestinian land, and Palestinians continue to show the world what it is like to fight against tyranny in 2020. And Israel continues to show the world the power of propaganda and right-wing nationalism. So here we go. Yeah. Thank you, Audre Lorde.
The trauma I survived will not stop me from liberating myself and others. Miss Alyssa Pariah.
Well, that was a promise.
Mm-hmm.
So I better do it.
And yeah, just to acknowledge, I mean, again, some of the stuff that you were saying about obviously like black and brown women, black and brown folk of all, just putting out this labor, emotional and otherwise, not being acknowledged and still having the capacity to continue the work, you know, even if I guess I just, not to make it about myself again, but think about all of the, you know, honestly white women who are now becoming conscious of their trauma and stuff, and staying in that place of not giving away their energy as freely, or not giving away their power, and thinking that's just where they can stay. And yeah, we have a lot of work to do. And if we actually want to support and acknowledge all the people that have had to be pushing past those boundaries to literally stay alive, maybe you could reconsider, you know.
Let me convince you to reconsider. May I?
Yes,
may,
please.
may I plead quickly to cisgender, and cisgender, for people who hear that and don't know, cisgender simply means that you are okay with the gender roles that were assigned to you based on the sex that you were assigned at birth. And if that's you, congratulations. I hear it's fabulous. And heterosexual, you know, you also comply with compulsory straightness, you know, like that it doesn't make you bristle. Congratulations. So I don't think that the white supremacist ideology of today that has a particular bend against and targeting of the social justice sentiment that is prevailing across much of the world. I mean, our movements are unequal. They're different all over. I mean, people are fighting for land rights in Palestine. They're fighting for human rights in Hong Kong. They're fighting against neo-colonization in Australia. They're fighting against austerity in Puerto Rico. They're fighting against Nazi cops in Minneapolis, right? Like, it's different, but the general understanding is like we're fighting for social justice, and that is something that binds us all, even if we're not talking to each other, let alone working together. But the white supremacy du jour of 2020 is offering to cis-het white women a safe place when things become less safe in their political program. And I would venture to say that it's better to be free and fight than to really be a pet to some Nazi man, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what's on offer in the big scheme, right? Like,
Yeah.
of course they're not saying that on their podcast. Like, oh, we're looking for white women to, you know, be our servants in the house, like the good old days, make America great again, right? That's
Yeah.
what they mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, Becky, don't turn out like Karen. You know, like break with that and decide that it is better to fight for social justice than to be a lapdog for, you know, these Hitler wannabes.
Yep. It's better to be uncomfortable than to
Yeah.
Yeah, turn against
Be
them.
safe all the time. Yep.
Turn against them and report on them to your local anti-fascists. Right, and I we're laughing, but that's actually, like, seriously, consider that.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh,
you can't report them to the police because they are the police, and we know that now. Like, it's coming out, it's leaking out now. But when the dam breaks and all the Nazis fall out, or worse, announce themselves, oh God,
Right.
as police, everyone will realize that it is not safe to report fascist behavior to the police, and that it is better to let anti-fascist groups know about the fascist activity that maybe a guy that you're dating, or your cousin, or your father,
Yeah.
or your boss is doing. Expose them to people who are ready to fight against them, please.
definitely. Yeah, I one conversation that Alyssa and I had right when a lot of the uprisings were going on in Minneapolis lately, that, you know, Alyssa's somebody that pays attention to the news, tries to stay plugged in and everything. And when I was telling her about, you know, there were still people that were calling upon the police when fascists or white supremacists were showing up and, you know, literally were being arrested, having their tires slashed. Like, it's not in any way a fairy tale that the police are in fact fascists. And the reason you might not see KKK members and police in the same room is because they can't be in two places at once. So,
Boop, boop. Thank you.
with that, Miss Alyssa, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
Oh my goodness.
I know we could just keep going and going, but we'll save that for part 2.
Sure. After this, I'm going to a rally for nurses that are advocating for single payer healthcare. And, you know, Medicare for All has taken a back seat in terms of, like, you know, us focusing our political energy toward a goal. And it's because people dying at the hands of the police is more pressing, and it's high time that people take it more seriously. But I'm happy to turn up for them. So our healthcare system is here. My hot take. Here you go. Our healthcare system is going to collapse soon. Okay, you can quote me on that. We are going to require that healthcare cease to be commodified if we have any chance of stemming the tide of infection from COVID and all of the other ailments that are waiting for us in the future, because you know, we can't continue to live on the planet in a healthy way because we've been poisoning it for a long time. So there's going to be a lot of new ailments that are going to require massive attention by a medical system that right now is like simply not prepared for what's coming. So if you can spare the time, do support striking nurses as they're fighting for better working conditions and health and sanitation, safety, and people who are fighting for Medicare for all at all levels of the political arena. We really do need this if we're going to survive and have any shot at being healthy. So.
Mm-hmm. So, if people want to learn more about some of the organizations that you're involved in, do you want to shout out maybe those social media profiles?
Yeah, so do search Don't Shoot Portland because we're we are more than just protesting against killer cops. And if that's all we did, we'd be doing great. But it's so much more than that. We have been helping to organize children who are watching all of this unfold and are experiencing it and are understanding it and are needing more outlets for their fears and their angst, anxiety, and analysis. Right, kids and have analysis too. So we were just marching with kids down Martin Luther King Boulevard and a children's march where after we did a big art build, they were able to take to the streets just like they see people doing on TV and maybe have been wanting to do it too. You know, now they are. So please support that work. And also, Don't Shoot Portland has sued the city of Portland for using tear gas and LRAD sonic attacks on protesters every day after the George Floyd protests kicked off. And they are now officially barred from using that. We'll see how they respect it or not. But that's a big win. So please continue to follow Don't Shoot Portland's work. And if you're in the U.S., do check out dsa.org/join and consider the organization that is, I think, 70,000 members strong at this point and is, I think, the best vehicle for people who are politicizing and are developing a critique of capitalism and want to get involved with fights for social justice. There are chapters all over the country, and I think that if you're new, you would do very well to join DSA to learn more and to be in community with people who are ready to fight, rather than joining your local Democratic Party, which is not an organizing institution at all. They don't even pretend to be. It's crumbling. I mean, the centrist answer to a Nazi problem has been proven to be ineffective, and the right wing lurching of both parties is going to get us killed, and we would do very well to contribute to something that poses a pulling back of the fascist creep that we've been experiencing for so long. So dsa.org/join.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to follow or support you directly, do you have any social media or like Venmo or anything you want to shout
Yes,
out?
everything is at Alyssa Pariah.
Awesome.
ALYSSAPARIAH, as in hated and unpopular. It's a little joke. It's a little joke.
Very good.
Thank you, Vicky.
Oh, thank you so much, Alyssa.
Let's do this
I'm
again.
glad. Please, please, God.
Okay. If your audience wants to give you questions
Yeah.
for next time, keep them in a little notepad, and then I'll be able to talk directly to them.
I love it.
Yay.
That's a great idea.
Love you.
Okay, I love you too.
Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Attention!